man named Jesus. And from my experience, I'm not trying to be personally insulting, but from what I understand about Jesus and Fundy, Fundy is nowhere near Jesus when it comes to virtue, action, things
Thank you
like
for that
that.
compliment.
Are you, Noah? If you're gonna throw
I
shade at
would
him,
never.
are you?
I would never
No,
want to be
I'm
a
definitely,
Christian or clown who gives
not.
really vague
But
advice and doesn't tell the truth
I'm
that he
not
supposedly
claiming.
claims he has.
Yeah, I'm not claiming to be better than God. This guy's claiming to be better than God. But when it comes to what
I'm not God.
I believe who God is, and looking at his character, and looking at Fundy's character, and he's not a bad guy. He's, it's just you're not perfect. You're not anywhere near God. Like
Yeah, I
it's
wouldn't. I
not even
wouldn't design an
comparable.
existence where everything needs to murder and eat each other's flesh to survive.
Animals don't murder. Animals don't have
Yeah,
laws.
I'm gonna go ahead and keep referring to it as that. They need to hunt each
You
other, track
can, but
them, hide in the
it's
shouters,
just
jump out, sink their teeth, and rip
that's
each
just
other's flesh
rhetoric.
out and eat their organs. Whatever you want to call
It's just
that. I mean, just for brevity's sake, I'm going to refer to that as murder and eating each other's flesh.
Okay,
Yeah, like
Fundy.
taking the life
that's just
involuntarily.
emotional and rhetorical though. It's not actually like logically moving any ball forward intellectually. It's just
I
pressing on a
think
lot
it's
of
just
emotional strings.
I
It's actually a
think
way
it's
of
just
it's
addressing
actually
such
a
a
deceptive way.
serious and
Actually a
clear,
deceptive
concise
way.
point, man. Now, there's
It's
nothing
actually a
emotional
deceptive way of
about it.
communications.
Hold on, guys.
Look at the world. Look at the
You
animals.
stop talking.
Look at everything, man. This world, you have to murder and eat each other's flesh to live on. Yeah, I probably wouldn't design it that way. Fuck you, God. You're the biggest bastard of all. If there
Yeah,
really is a God
but
who
you're not
designed it
even
this way.
classifying what's happening accurately. You're using rhetoric. You're getting rhetorical and emotional by calling things murder that aren't. Like you're not even using the English language properly.
Don't be afraid to address the point directly, man.
Well,
We can
Fundy,
talk
I
about
have
a
a
specific
question.
animal if you want.
Yeah, death isn't
Can
evil.
we just
If you want me to, if you want
can
me
we
to
just
address,
not
if you want me to
can we
address
just
your,
not
yo, this guy,
obfuscate?
you're now you're just getting belligerent and interrupted. What you mean to
Let's just
say?
not
If I'm going
obfuscate.
to, if I'm go, now you're being belligerent. What you mean to say, if we're going to take the rhetoric out, is that we live in a world where suffering and death exists. Therefore, there cannot be an
No,
omnibenevolent, all-powerful person. What I would say is
no,
that suffering and
no.
death are
Straw
not
man me.
necessarily evil. You
No,
literally
you
just said
straw man me.
murder and eat. You literally just said murder and eating each other. Now, animals don't follow
Yeah.
laws, so they can't murder. It have to be killing. And the eating thing. What does it matter if someone's eating or not after it's dead? How is
Yeah,
that a straw
you
man?
got, you got, yeah, you're taking it in such a weird direction. I already offered
I'm
up
not.
an
I'm not at
alternative.
all.
Well,
I'm
I already
not.
offered
You
an
said
alternative
someone won't
version
address
that
it. I
you
just
could
addressed it. That's
hold
not weird.
on. Yeah. Well, I already offered up an alternative version. If you didn't like the way I worded it before, we live in a world where many animals have to stalk, hunt, attack, sink their fangs in each other, and rip off pieces of their flesh and consume it and metabolize it and shit it out in order to survive in this world. There, I didn't use the word murder. I didn't use the word law either. But you know that happens, right? You know animals do that,
Okay,
and you know that
I
animals
understand.
feel
Yeah.
pain.
Yes. So
Okay,
because
that's all I
animals
have to
feel
say.
pain and
Fuck your
die.
laws, fuck your God. Animals
So
are ripping each
so
other's
the
flesh
argument.
off each other's
Now you're being
skeletons and
belligerent.
eating
Now
them in
you're
order to
repeating
survive.
yourself. Now you're just repeating yourself.
Yeah,
Now you're chanting.
I really wanted to
You're
sink it in with
chanting.
you guys.
You're no. You're chanting. You've gone beyond reason. You're chanting the same thing over and over again. Now your criticism is essentially that animals suffer and die. Uh,
No, it isn't.
that's your criticism. Yeah, what you just described was animals suffering and dying, and
No, that they,
that's
well, that they
evil.
kill each other. You're saying that they kill each other. They eat
No. I'm not
each
talking about
other's
suffering and
flesh off their
dying.
living body.
You can die of natural causes and you can suffer in other ways. I'm specifically just talking about that we live in a world. And yeah, I'm going to repeat myself one more time, Noah, because I
He's
really wanted to
chanting.
sink in with you guys. No, and
No,
you're
you're
interrupting.
chanting.
You've refused to address the direct point that I'm making that animals have to stalk in the shadows behind the bush, leap out, sink their fangs into each other's flesh, rip pieces off, consume them, digest them, and shit them out in order to live in this world and survive.
Okay. And what's wrong with an animal stalking another animal and eating it?
It's traumatizing, it's suffering, it's painful, it's horrible. It's literally
So it
the thing
goes
we're
back.
all most
It goes
afraid of.
back to pains. It goes back to pain, suffering, and death. The thing that I summarized you as.
It's definitely related. I'm honing on one point.
You literally just repeated the point that I said that you said was a straw man.
No, I
No, you're not
repeated
taking
my
into
point.
account. Can I say something? He's not taking into account that all killing, or I mean, all murder is killing, but not all killing is murder. So these animals have to murder to survive.
Is that
And it's
true?
just
Or
not
is that
pain and suffering.
I mean,
do
funny.
we
I
know
would
that's
say
not
that
a
kind
lie?
of pales. I would say it kind of pales in comparison to what humans go through in suffering. Because I kind of question how much animals really feel pain to a certain degree. I know I'm not saying they don't. I mean, they yelp and they scream, and I'm not saying they're not yelling when they're being killed. But I don't know that it's the same as a human, just because they don't have the same mental processes and all that. So I mean, that's a question in and of itself. But I'm just saying, I think that kind of pales in comparison to human suffering. When you think about all the
I would agree.
diseases. I mean, yeah, it's
Okay.
way more.
Well, I'm going to address the point of death and suffering in that you don't have a reason to say that suffering and death is evil. You're just asserting it, and that essentially that you're wrong. That evil is not suffering and death. That
I didn't say that either.
you can suffer. Well, yeah, you're gonna say you don't say it, but then you're gonna imply it, and then you're gonna repeat it and say that's not what I'm saying, but repeat exactly what I said. So I'm just saying it for the room, not for you, because it seems like
All
you're
right.
getting dishonest at this point.
I would say the
But
same
yeah,
thing
no,
right back at you, man.
suffering.
Dude, this conversation was fine until it went personal, and now it's just been kind of a mess. Can you guys get maybe reset from the personal thing, and maybe because
We could just stick to the exact words I spoke, which wasn't personal and very exact and concise.
this is
Yeah,
why we
and
mod
then
more
you
because
repeat
it just spirals. Like one person says a thing, the other guy wants to punch him back, the other guy wants to punch him back, and then the interruptions, and then this is why we mod for because now we're
Don't
you know
put
what I'm
it.
saying?
Don't
So
put
yeah,
it in easy. Yeah.
I'm just asking if you guys could reset. 'Cause I think we all want to hear
Yeah,
what
I'm
you guys
trying to
are saying.
reset. I'm trying to reset. An animal stalking another animal and then consuming its flesh to live is not inherently evil. You have not given a reason why it's evil. You have just asserted it's evil. That's the
No, I said
criticism.
it's awful. I said there's pain and trauma and suffering and torture and fear involved.
Okay,
And
so pain and
yeah,
suffering are not inherently evil. You have not shown why pain and suffering are inherently evil.
no, we can have pain and suffering. I'm just saying, in order to exist, you are forced into a Hunger Games scenario. That's what God has supposedly
That's rhetoric.
put us
That's
involved with.
rhetorical. That's not an actual rational point. We don't actually live in a Hunger Games world. That's completely rhetorical. What he just said.
Well, he's just
Funny-
saying. I mean, dog eat dog.
It doesn't have substance.
Yeah, but he just meant like dog eat dog world, and I think is what he meant. That kind of
Right.
phrase.
So one animal consumes another animal's flesh to sustain its life. What about
Yeah,
that?
pretty fucked up.
What about that is evil? Can you actually make a rational point about why that's evil?
I think
And if you're going to say
smart.
suffering, that's the first thing that I addressed was suffering when you were saying that's a straw man.
Well, it's
I
like
don't know.
it's like Tool said, it's hostile. The universe is hostile, right? At its underlining, you have
I
to
would
be hostile.
I would say no. How can you live in something? How can man live so easily in something that's inherently hostile?
Well, that's why
It's
it
not
goes
inherently
back to like
hostile.
the creator obviously wants the suffering because if it didn't want it, it wouldn't have it. It would not. It would absolutely
Exactly.
not. Yeah, so it wants it. It clearly is
Yes.
creating it.
But the thing is, the mistake not you personally, Gio, but I guess Fundy and whoever's agreeing with Fundy on this, mistake you guys, and if it doesn't apply, let it fly, is that suffering is necessarily evil. The Christian worldview does not say suffering is necessarily evil. They actually say a lot of instances suffering is a good thing. You can suffer for a good cause. You don't have to feel pleasure to do the right thing.
How would you define evil?
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask. Like what you mean by that, because it is very dark. Yeah, whether it's evil.
Well,
Because
no,
I mean, if the creator didn't want a lion ripping off the legs of a hyena while he's eating it, and the hyena screaming, or any of the things humans go through, it just wouldn't create it. But it created it, so it obviously wanted to create it.
And
Okay,
there's
yeah,
no
but
such
remember,
thing as
It's not like it's not like forced to create suffering that it can't get out of or something. Like it's creating it wants to. It's like I'm
Okay,
gonna make this
what if-
human.
what
I'm
if
gonna make
it-
him suffer. It just is
What
it
if
is.
it? What if it needed it? What if it needed it though? What if like you needed the suffering somehow for some other as a byproduct of something else he wanted or needed? You know what I'm
Exactly.
saying?
Jeremy
yeah,
gets
Fundy,
it.
It's a
Funny.
want or a need.
Well, if he
Either
got
wanted it
something
or
like
needed it.
what? Give an example of that. Why? What it would need? Like as like a currency? Like it needs people to have tumors growing out of their brain for some reason?
No,
What do
just
you
the
mean?
lion.
well,
eating
you guys mentioned he
cell.
wants it. I think he wants something more than that.
I don't think it's a.
I'm talking about
okay.
I don't
the
think it's
lion
about.
eating the.
I don't think it's about what's
Can we just let
desired
that was
by any
not a
sort of
good
make
timing,
believe.
Fundy. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
Red,
Sorry. Can we just let Jeremy say his
you
thing?
need some water?
He was trying to clarify. No, you're not, Mike. Jeremy, what were you saying about the lions? What it needs that for a purpose? Go ahead.
Yeah, like maybe God didn't want the suffering, but he needed it because he wanted or needed another thing. You know what I'm saying? Like if you need the organic matter I don't know. I could see a scenario in which he would need to have the suffering as a byproduct of something else. You know what I mean?
Maybe not. Yeah,
Absolutely.
he doesn't
Well,
want
you
it.
get the
but
nutrition.
he's aware that that's going to happen. Just like parents are aware of their children are going to face many perils. Just the
case
fact
of-
of having children is greater than the risk, because the experience that the parent wants to provide that child is way more than the risk. And in fact, that's the issue. People think that what we're experiencing is the way it was meant to be. Obviously, it's not the way it's meant to be because we're living in a world filled with misinformation and liars. So if we take away the misinformation and liars, that's the way it was supposed to. That's, I think, the intention of the creator.
I think
Talking about
everything is
nature.
the way
Then
it
it
was
just get
supposed to
goofed
be.
up then? Well, then it just goofed? Because if that was what it wanted to do, it's just like a failed dude? Like, why didn't he create what he wanted then?
Everyone goofs up, but the most amazing experience is after you goof up, you try to make it right and live the rest of your life in a different way. You don't do that. That's I believe one of the when you get closer to the ultimate experience. I think the ultimate experience is essentially trying to make this world a better place by helping the orphan and the widow and breaking the satanic spell and the Genesis curse that people are stuck in until the Creator makes his second appearance.
Jeremy, I was going to say about the lion thing. The lion is getting the nutrition. So I mean, the lion's sitting there happy, licking his lips, feeling really good after he eats a gazelle's leg off. Or is the
I
gazelle?
was going to use that. But then God could have just made meat grow off of plants. You know what I'm saying?
Well, then you're killing the plants. You're eating the arms off the plants. But yeah, that's true. I mean, I guess it could have made lions just not a lion. I guess if you just like forget the lion idea, just create something else that just nibbles on leaves that regrow quickly, maybe. So then, I guess it could have done that. Yeah. So even more so, it shows to create the lion that rips legs off of gazelles.
Well, if you look at baby animals that eat other animals, you don't see them actually enjoying it at first, and in fact, they don't even like it. But it just becomes out of necessity, out of conditioning. They haven't learned. Oh, I can eat this grass. I didn't know I can eat this berry.
Well, everything's searching for equilibrium. You know what I'm saying? Gas wants to be is fighting to go into equilibrium. Everything wants to be in equilibrium. It's and maybe good and evil need that same equilibrium thing. You know what I'm saying? It's always fighting to be in equilibrium, good and evil. Maybe
until it gets to good.
Imagine it. Law of thermodynamic evil.
What you just said, Jeremy, is interesting because some people say that why do people pray, right? And they say that prayer is the sustenance of God. Like that's what he lives on. Prayer.
No, that's some Clash of the Titans shit or something right there.
You didn't mean it in that way?
I don't think
so.
Well, no, that was an idea where people would, the gods need our prayers for them to, that's like their sustenance or whatever. But I don't think so.
Think of it like this: you're in a war, right? You're in the middle of war, and you're leading your platoon. And who do you call when you need trouble? Headquarters. That's essentially the analogy. You call the headquarters, the creator.
I would call
in for backup. No, you can call in for someone even better. Some therapists are mistrained, but you call right to the source, the creator. Call in for backup.
Okay. Whatever that means. What does that mean? You yell up to the sky, or what does that mean? You just think a thought or believe a thing? You think a belief?
No, well, Jesus.
We're gonna call
I'm sure everyone will have their own prayer to reach out to the Creator. Maybe they're suffering in one way. Maybe they're grateful. They were blessed, and they want to pray and say thank you. I'm not asking for anything. I'm just saying thank you, and thank you for the blessings upon blessings. And then there's other people who literally need help because they've reached their wits' end. So they're calling on the Creator. Creator, help me get through this. So everyone's going to have their own reason to reach out to headquarters or the source or the Creator.
When I said therapist, I was just making a joke because if you're leading a platoon in an army, you've got some serious psychological problems going on. So I was just joking.
That's true, Gio. Yeah, totally. Thank you. We needed some levity for sure.
I think there's one metaphysical principle that pretty much addresses all of this, and it's that motion and change can only occur within the range of a spectrum, and anything absolute or perfect in any sense is completely motionless and still and can't have any change involved in it. So if you want anything to be happening at all, if you want existence to exist, if you want anything at all to occur, there has to be room for travel. So there has to be room to the left and room to the right in order for movement to happen and change to occur within that spectrum. Anything that's perfectly good is locked in place, or perfectly bad, or perfectly anything, or absolute in any form, is completely stationary, completely still, and no change can occur.
Yeah, funny. And I definitely wanted to ask you, imagine, okay, take this world that we live in right now, whether it's a globe or a flat plane. Take away all the corruption. Don't you think that the Creator did it? Like, imagine we take away pain, suffering, and everyone's living in harmony because we're all on the same page. We come to the agreement, no one's going to steal from each other, hurt each other, covet, etc. Don't you think this creation is quite marvelous?
Well, I don't think that's possible, right? Unless reality like completely froze, there would be no movement. Reality always has to be some sort of dynamic, fluctuating blend of heaven and hell, and that's why this is the place that exists, and those are places that don't.
Wait,
So
don't you? I don't think
reality
you have.
is,
Go ahead, Essie. Sorry.
I was just going to say, reality is 1 billion people more or less go to bed hungry every night. Is that reality?
That's the reality right now. Yeah, but I
Sure.
don't think that's the intention.
That's what God created.
Yeah.
Yeah, but maybe
Sure.
we're not finished the story. Where now we have people who have been blessed. Much is upon them to make it right. That's why William Wilberforce, he was very wealthy. He was more wealthy than the son of the king, and he went to
I want to
Parliament.
address Gio.
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, so Gio said that's what God created, but that is correct, but it is not the entire correct thing, because we are also participants in existence and the creation process. That the things on earth are not only created by God, but also by man. And the Christian worldview is that the evil things in this world were brought about by man, not God.
It seems like a
Are-
Well,
misplaced.
you guys always say to me, you know, when I talk about living 10,000, 100,000 years and shit, you know, people are like, "Oh, I couldn't do it. I would crack. You wouldn't know what to do with yourself." Blah blah blah. I could
Fuck.
keep busy, and if I could keep busy, and if you're God and can do anything you want, you can definitely keep busy. You can make this place and treat it like Westworld and just run through lives. That would keep you busy forever, forever.
Yeah, I think it would definitely be amazing to have some what wasn't gate kept from us. Now we have access to it, and I think that's something exciting.
The question here, and the underlying question, the gorilla in the room is, why does the creator appear to be so violent, so psychopathic, whatever it's called? Why?
Because it's interesting.
Because it's interesting. Yeah, I guess. Yeah.
Well,
No, maybe
if you have eternity and you're entertaining yourself, create a little
what
Illuminati in there. Maybe see how that goes for 100, 200 years.
Essie, what if we ask this different question now? And that might be a question someone wants to ask. What about this? Why is the creator so extremely loving and merciful?
To who?
What are you? Yeah, yeah. Is that a question for us? I mean, what is the creator and what is loving and merciful? Because there's a lot
That's
of
all.
pain and not
That's only
loving.
referencing an afterlife promise.
No, we can take even creation now. Why was he so generous to us to provide us this place, loving people, loving family, etc. So some people and people who have helped people like in satanic rituals, they've saved them. They've helped end slavery in the past. They've helped end slavery in America. So if that's extreme love that humans go through and experience to bring to others, imagine the creator. And that's why I think he's even more extremely loving. So yeah, we
Well,
can maybe go for
you
it.
want to give God credit for the good stuff, but not blame him for the bad.
No, I would rather worship the creator of all that is amazing, because whenever you have something that amazing, you have the antonym. Just because there's the antonym doesn't mean it's like if I build a house, right? And I know I'm gonna have children, I'm put them in the house. I'm gonna have knives, I'm gonna have guns, I'm gonna have all these weapons, sledgehammers. I don't want them to use it against each other. Those are tools. But what's happened is people believe lies from the tree of knowledge of evil. They're so confused. They're using these tools against each other. That's not the parent's will. He knows that could happen, but that's why if the child listens to the rules, everyone's safe. Are you guys willing to listen to the rules? I know most of you are. There's some people who will never
Nope.
want to listen to the rules.
Nope. I don't listen to any of those rules coming from that entity. Nope. Negative.
Yeah, I mean, you're just defining what you think the rules are.
Well, you guys already live by them. Do you guys go off and murder people? No.
Yeah, but that's not a rule that is very hard to get. It's not like you don't need anything for that.
No.
Just to know
Well,
it's wrong to kill people.
exactly.
Yeah,
It's so
this
obvious,
tracks
but
back to the
people do it
question I asked you
anyways.
earlier, man. This tracks back to the thing I was telling you earlier, which you partially agreed with. I said I would never do something just because God told me to. There would have to be like a reason or like
Yeah.
a logic behind why he's telling me that. He would need to explain if it didn't already align with what I thought was right.
Okay, look at
If
it
one
like
of the
this.
if one of the 10 commandments was you have to drown a puppy every third full moon, I said, you know what? I really don't care that you said that, God. I'm not going to do that. But my ears are open if you ever want to come down and explain to me why that's one of the rules or one of the laws you wrote down. But
Well
until you
stated.
explain that one, I'm not going to do it.
Well stated. That's why that's not in the Ten Commandments, and that's why you'll have Muslims. That's why you have Muslims who are like have certain rules, and people are like, I don't like these rules. I like the Jewish rules better, so they switch from Muslim to Christianity. So yeah, some rules are better than others, absolutely, and that's why the largest faith in the world right now is Christianity, because they all started to realize, I like these rules the best.
It's not a
Right.
strong argument, dude. The biggest cosmology is the globe. It's just not a strong argument, especially when the Bible has been pushed in every church and it's been slammed into people. Like, that's just not a strong argument that it's the most in the world.
Well,
It could be the opposite, that a lot of people are deceived with the globe and religion.
yeah, that's true. But it doesn't mean that it is true. I just said it could be true. But as for the globe, yeah, they do see that it all relies on evidence. The thing about the globe is that you use fake evidence, so you have to use
Yeah.
your discernment.
Yeah, and no one's forcing you to go to church. Yeah, not even God.
The Bible was taught to me right alongside, all of the scientism. Quite a weird predicament to grow up in America, at least my circumstance. You go to school, you're told about dinosaurs in outer space, and then Wednesday and Sunday, you're getting indoctrinated with the Bible as well. Just indoctrination to my left and my right.
But the great thing about the Bible, Fundy, is it protects you from people who want to enslave you. Because now you're not a slave to
I
man.
don't think
You're
it does
only
that.
this. You're not a slave to man. You don't have to bow down to any man. You only serve the one true Creator. You're a Creator who sustains you, right? So it protects you. That's the problem. There's a lot of institutions, and even Satan doesn't want people to believe in a Creator. They don't want to believe in a good Creator. Because
Maybe
if
not the Bible itself, but the way it's used in society and culture is actually, a tool to make people serve other men and give them their money to con artists and worship I know that's not the Bible itself. I'm just saying the way it's used is such a powerful tool for making people bow down to other men and worship them and give them their hard-earned money.
yeah, I can see what you're saying, but yeah, that did happen in the Vatican when they lied and they were selling indulgences. So they were.
It happens on every 10th street corner where I've always lived. And, the 10 cities I've lived in, that, I see con artist after con artist using the Bible to get people to think the guy on stage is like, someone to really look up to, even though, you follow him home, spy on him, he's doing all sorts of evil shit.
Ghettos, the image of hometown. But yeah, back to the other thing though. God probably, you know what I'm saying? He's got infinity to do stuff. What do you do if you have infinity? You know what I'm saying? You come down here and play Westworld out, and you're good. You have a lot of stuff to do. I mean, this will keep you busy right here. This place.
Oh yeah. I mean, I loosely use the word designed, but its design is really brilliant in the fact that nothing will ever happen twice. It's only just new shit after new shit. You'll literally never run out of options.
Yeah, I mean, Eden, are you open to the idea that the source of creation is good and evil? That it's both? Because it seems like a lot of Christianity, they want to say, like, it's like men wrote this book, they want to hype up their God, make it sound like their God is like the best dude ever. And then all the evil stuff is because he's man that need to, absolve their sins. Like, it seems very wrapped up into that, and then hyping up this guy like he's the best, he's the lover, he's the best ever. But I'm saying, are you considering the idea that that actually the source is both, that it is the light and the dark, and it creates it both purposefully?
Yeah, thank you, Gio, for allowing me or asking that. I am open to that. I just think it's more likely, yeah, because if we do take the Bible at face value, it talked about how there was a time where he flooded the world. So, I mean, there's pros and cons to that, I suppose. But I am open to that. But I just believe that
it says that verbatim in the Bible.
Yeah, yeah. So I do believe.
I, the Lord, do both these things. I do good things. I do evil things. I, the Lord, do both these things, or all these things.
Yeah, so I'm definitely open to it. But I'm through the teachings of Jesus, I'm just blown away of the mercy and the wisdom of God, and I think that He's merciful. So even though a lot of these people, even the people who are lying to us about whatever COVID and maybe the Earth, He's willing to forgive them, and I think that's pretty awesome.
Is He wrathful as well?
Oh yeah, He's very angry. Jesus told us that if anyone who harms children is better off that they're in the water with the millstone around their neck. So he definitely. That's why rules. Think of it like this: rules make the fun and add freedom. Nobody here would want to engage if Geo wasn't modding, because everyone's just going crazy, or watching your favorite sport where not even the referee knew the rules. It would be chaos. The rules literally make the fun. But we've been programmed to hate the rules.
Let me ask Gio a question. Somebody's DMing me and kind of daring me, kind of a thing. So here goes, bro. We're not afraid to ask the questions. So Gio, this question is put to you. If you think that we are part of, like God is all of us, right? You've said that before, like it's part of the creation. We are part of God.
Oh, we are it. We are the
We are
totality.
it, right? Yeah.
Well, we're the totality of everything. Yeah, each one of us
Yeah.
is.
So the question is, shouldn't we blame ourselves then? Shouldn't you blame yourself?
Yeah, it's all self created. Yep, every single part of it. Suffering is self initiated, self created, self manifested, and purposefully created. So yeah, exactly. There's no one out there to blame. There's no one out there to get mad at or punch in the face or anything with any of it. Yeah, we are creating it all ourselves. Therefore, putting ourselves in our own
That's
position.
that's the Christian answer to the problem of evil. Is that man, not God, created evil?
Well, I'm not really
We're
saying
not.
man.
You said we are it. Who is we if not us men?
There's no creation involved in that, though. Is that there's good and there's bad and there's the all, and we are the all, and the all isn't one or the other. It's a fluctuating dynamic situation of both, and there is will involved, our will. So through our will, as conscious agents of reality that decide the fate of the future, we can make the future as good or as bad as we want it to be, just depending on what we decide. So the only thing to do is try to be as good as possible.
Yeah, so that defeats the criticism that you and Gio were both levying against Christianity earlier. This problem of evil. Your answer is the same as the Christian worldview. So your
Not at
criticism is
all.
hypocritical.
Well, when I said the word we, I didn't mean humans. I meant we as in everything. The source, me, you, every single thing that exists. Yeah, or that
And also,
source.
I want
Yeah,
to
I
say
didn't mean
something else to
man.
Gio. There was a thing called Gnosticism, which was like a bunch of different heresies back in the day. And Manichaeism was a Gnostic heresy that held that God was both evil and good. The idea has been heavily explored philosophically, like thousands of years ago. They were talking about that exact idea. It's called Manichaeism if you want to look it up.
You can also
So
look
if
into
we are all
Cathars.
God, if God is part of us, and we take responsibility for it, then I mean, how does that work out?
It works out by you living your life, being conscious of your thoughts and actions.
Well, what do you mean? I see exactly. How does it work out? In what way? Like what? What do you mean? Like
Yeah, like
if we've created like a self prison for ourselves, you're saying, and then let's say
yeah,
somebody's
yeah,
really suffering, or yeah, like well, let's say somebody was born, the minute they were born, they were abused in every way, physically, sexually, in every way possible. They then are just an absolute wreck. They have no support from the world in any way to heal or have anything. So then they end up, killing someone and ending up in prison. And then maybe they die in prison. Like just a life that is just brutal in that sense of it. Like just from birth to death, So yeah, you're saying like, why would God put itself in that position? And then what, is that what you mean? Like why would it,
yeah,
and not only
yeah.
why would it put itself, but like, what are you supposed to do with that kind of thing? You mean like if it did it to itself?
Yeah, like if we're it and we're doing it to ourselves, but we're God and God is us, and isn't it like a hodgepodge of like I don't know. I'm trying to find logic in that system.
No, I would just say it's a
Well,
massive field of consciousness that is has layers in which it's experiencing. I mean, I wouldn't really say a hodgepodge, but it is like a separation. Because for example, like even the idea that like you create let's say some kind of a way to live, like don't kill people, and then you create someone who kills someone. So like that does seem like a contradiction. But I just think it's like different states of consciousness that are involved. So like the person that's killing the person is not really aware of their totality of themselves. But is that kind of what you're asking though? Because I'm not sure if I'm like you're just saying if it's all self-administered or if it's all kind of self-created.
Yeah, like if it's all intertwined, right? If we're all part of it, so what are we praying to ourselves?
Yes, I'm talking to
Did we
myself right
make
now.
it? So
Yeah, I'm talking to myself right now. Talking to you is talking to my yeah, dude.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah. It's all just it's because it's all we can do because we're only one. There's not any. There's no one else. There's not like 10 other dudes hang out. There's just one, the God or the Creator, the Source. So it has no other options. It has to just create out of itself, and it's pretty amazing what it can do because it can create these very different states of consciousness and people that feel completely separate and animals and all that. But there's no other option.
I think it all comes down to consciousness, and I think the difficulty is how we project our human experience onto things and even onto each other. I think all of this is so related to the idea that every one of us that can see, right, all of us as functioning eyeballs, we all kind of assume that blind people are seeing the color black all the time, when the truth is they're not seeing anything at all. And there's just no way for us with working eyeballs to relate to them, right? Wait, you're not even seeing black? You know what I mean? You're just not seeing at all because everyone assumes that blind people, they are seeing, they're just seeing black, but no, that's not the case. They're just not seeing at all. There is no black or white to them, or darker or brighter. It's just a hard thing to overcome the way we can project onto these things and make assumptions.
yeah. I don't think there's any way to know either way, right? It's just us trying to make sense of the world, but I don't think we can ever know that aspect of it.
I think you will, dude. I think you will. So like I do think like so I would say like you came from the source, as it were, and I would say holographically and fractally, you are the source. So eventually you'll remember everything. That's
I used
I
to
think
think when we
I think all of
die,
us will.
Gio,
All of us will.
we'll
Yeah.
get. Sorry, I thought you were done there.
No, I might have picked up again. No, go ahead. I was just saying, I mean, if we're eternal and that's our home, then we'll be there forever. But yeah, what were you gonna say?
Yeah, I used to think when I was younger, like we'll find out these answers when we die. But now I'm not so sure anymore.
Well, forever isn't something you'll consciously experience, like I was just relating to the blind thing, right? I mean, we may be eternal, but that's not something that will ever be like consciously experienced. Experience is, what we're doing, experiencing is what we're doing right now. And it comes in temporal sections or whatever. Not that there isn't an infinite potential we're all connected to that is us on a higher level or whatever, or a co-eternal level or whatever. But there's the infinite potential, and then there's the finite actual, and the interesting relationship those two things have to each other.
Yeah, this is like,
Well,
like I always say, the ultimate question.
Well, yeah, I mean, obviously, I see we're in a very limited state as a human. Like we have very limited, information, and so then I guess when you're saying when you die, there's either the idea that you go back to the source right when you die, or that there's a pit stop, between death and the source, meaning that when the state of dying, like that there's an intermediary, like a train stop, before you get all the way back. So
Yeah, purgatory, as they say, or it's lights out. No more brain cells, no more ability for the electrons to process the neurons, blah blah blah, and it's just lights out.
Idea. You know how there's a like solid state hard drives, basically like a memory card, right?
yeah, I'm familiar with them. I have several of them. Yeah.
Just any sort of memory chip or memory card, right? You know how the entire, uh, say there's pick a show. Let's go with Avatar: The Last Airbender. Good cartoon. 7 seasons. 60 hours worth of show, right? Um, that entire show can be on this solid state hard drive. No moving parts, yet the entire show is on it, right? But if you were say like a consciousness within that hard drive, and you were experiencing the information in it one frame at a time, if that was like the delivery mechanism, the way you, I don't know, just sort of perceived the information inside of it, it wouldn't be that any information is actually flowing. It would just be your awareness and your perception of taking all the information it contains in it step by step as a conscious observer of. But the thing is, the ending of that show that you're experiencing, maybe you're like a conscious character in the show, if you want to take that perspective, or you could be an audience, just a watcher of the show, whichever way you want to look at it. The ending is already, engraved into the hard drive. And you see everything observing the show as if like it's logical. Oh, that guy punched him and physics applies and he gets knocked back, and this person did that, and that logically leads into that. And it would appear to you in your awareness as like an unfolding of logical events, right? But the thing is, it isn't actually and leading to a cause, leading to an event, leading to a cause. It's just your witnessing of something that's already exists. The finale of the show, it already exists, even though you haven't gotten there yet. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
the future may already be, and that isn't like an argument against free will, because I think it's maybe more paradoxical than that, or just beyond our level of comprehension. And I don't want to insult the idea of free will, because I do believe in free will, but I think it may be a little bit more complicated than the false dichotomy of hard determinism versus free will. Maybe the future already does kind of exist in some sort of higher state.
Oh,
You
it
know what I
does.
mean?
Absolutely, yeah. The whole like a DVD, you can make a movie, put it on a DVD. The whole movie's on that DVD. You could go out and play frisbee with it, but you put it in your player, and now you got a 2-hour movie to watch, and you get to watch the whole thing and feel the emotions and feel the parts of the movie, that are whatever it was,
Uh-huh.
and then you go back and take the DVD out and go back and play frisbee with it. So it's like, yeah,
Well,
it's all there.
some
You're just,
DVDs have
you're
a
just
choose your own
selectively,
adventure.
you're just selectively
Oh, sorry.
experiencing it.
Yeah, that's true. Some
Even the,
DVDs have a choose your
Mhm.
own adventure. Well, go ahead.
even those still, even the choose your own adventure ones, right? The future still already exists, even though there is more of a free will mechanic involved in your experience dealing with it.
Is it a free will delusion or a free will actual free will? Well, that's a whole other question.
I think it's
It's
a
a
paradox.
delusion of free will because they give you different paths. It's a delusion, or the illusion of free will. But even those paths are scripted.
Well, still, I'd call it a true illusion. I call it a true falsehood. I call it a real, unreal thing.
See, what I think is that the only thing that doesn't really have full free will is us. Like I would say, like the source, as it were, which that ultimate kind of state. Like it has, like in that state, it has the ultimate free will. It can create absolutely anything at any level to exquisite perfection on any level. It can just create it, and it has that ultimate free. It has that ultimate free will, even to the point where it has such free will that it can create humans that think they have free will or might partially have free will. Like it has so much free will, it can create the experience of free will or of intermittent free will within humans. So that's what I would say. Like the source has that ultimate free will, but then in a human form, we have sort of like this. It's like I kind of refer to it as like, it's like an experience of free will. Like for example, if I right now was like, I'm going to go and get a glass of water. And then I'm like, no, wait a minute. I'm going to go get a glass of green tea instead. I'm going to get something totally different. I might feel like, yeah, I changed my mind. I have free will. I made that choice to go get the green tea. Then on the higher level, like you were saying, the DVD's already been written in that sense. Therefore, it wasn't really my ultimate free will, but it was the creator's free will or the source's free will on that level to create time and my body and my person and then my thought pattern of so it overlaps. It's like a Venn diagram. Like it overlaps with the free will on that deeper level. But it seems like on a higher level of being humans, there seems to be things occurring that we can't control.
Do you guys do you like the illusion of free will? Anyone? Or do you like free will that you've been given?
I've never had anything else to compare it to, so I can't tell you if I have a preference. But Geo, people, culture and the English language is designed to give us this idea in our heads, which I think is very practical. You can't deny it's the way things kind of have to be in order to sort of just live and continue on. But this idea that there's you, and then there's like your environment, or there's nature. And I think from a different perspective, it's equally true to say you are nature itself. This idea that like you're not the universe, you know what I mean? Like that's just some sort of egotistical, which isn't a crime. It's not even wrong to a certain degree, but at the same time, it's also not wrong or a crime, and also true that you are nature itself. This idea that like, oh, that's
phrase,
natural, but I'm in.
That phrase Alan Watts has used, the skin encapsulated ego. He refers to that, the illusion of separation. He refers to it as a skin encapsulated ego. But you were referring to the egotistical. Is that what you're saying? Like feeling separate, because that is kind of what the ego is connected to, is separateness. But like, if that's an illusion, is that what you were saying? That it's sort of like that illusion of separateness that creates an egotistical kind of thing to think, in some kind of self-aggrandizing way.
Yeah, that's part of it, but I don't feel that perspective as more true than the other perspective, which I think is equally true. You know what I mean? I think the highest philosophical truths can only be expressed through paradoxical statements, like all is one and one is all. The white dot and the yang and the black dot and the yin. You know what I mean? I think there's a reason the yin yang symbol is so famous, because it's basically a really perfect summary of what we're dealing with here.
Yeah. Also looks like the flat Earth, sun and moon. But you guys used your free will in 2019, I'm sure. And I believe slaves even have free will, even though they don't have control over their body. Perhaps I think they still have free will of their mind.
I'm sure that's comforting for the slave.
Well,
I was thinking, like, you know how, like, just the analogy of like the idea of like that, like SE, like if you are actually the source, you are the totality, but now you're SE who has limited, and I mean I'm limited too. I'm not calling you limited. I'm just saying we're all limited. And then we've kind of forgotten all these things, like who are we, where did we come from, what's truth, what's not truth, what is the earth, like all these questions. Because I mean that's just being human, like, in terms of not knowing everything. The kind of idea of forgetting, like if you were the source and you were omnipotent, omnipresent, well then it could be said that all of us are in perhaps some state of forgetting, some kind of temporary forgetting. And I was just going to link that to like, people do have like, like accidents where they lose memory and stuff like that. So I was just thinking, like, just as an analogy, let's say somebody was, grew up, they had a good childhood, everything was fine, they had good memory, everything was solid, and then maybe at age 20 they have a major car accident and now they've lost huge patches of memory. They don't know who the president is, where they are, all that kind of stuff. And some of those, if it's real brain damage stuff, can go on, longer. So I was just kind of using that as an example. So that person may go through some experience where they completely forget who they are, what they are, where they came from, where their childhood. That's why they ask people like, who's the president when they get in an accident, because they, to see if because that is a thing that happens. So I was just kind of making that as an analogy, and then that person maybe forgot half their childhood, or maybe forgot all their childhood after that injury, and they just can't recall it. So I was just kind of making that analogy that, if you are actually the source and then you're in a state of forgetting, as we all are, then that's just sort of an analogy for that there can be a lot more that you've just completely forgotten about. And that lot more is the entire thing, all of existence, other than SE. Like everything that I've forgotten is everything of existence other than me. I would say the same, but yeah, what do you think of that?
Yeah, that's a crazy thought to have. Yeah, for sure, because there are a lot of people that has happened to, right? That they've been in an accident, they forgot like up to that point and back that they can't remember anything. And what if it's a self-made forgetfulness? I'll one up on you, Gio. What if it's
Yeah,
a
exactly.
self-made forgetful? Yeah,
Oh, right. So in that case, it's not just getting hit by a car, which would be outside of the realm of a human, but it'd almost be like you're hanging out like, all right, I'm going to get in a car accident. I'm going to get really drunk and I'm going to plan for this. Yep. I'm going to hit a tree at 100 miles an hour and I'm going to lose all my memory, and then you get in the car, like you're completely making the choice to do it. to then do that. Yeah. Cause I mean, I guess, I don't know if that analogy works, but yeah, what you're saying. Yeah. A self-made forgetfulness. Yeah. Cause I don't think any of us are victims of anything.
yeah. Like if you're an omnipotent being, like Jeremy was saying, and you make Westworld, right? You don't want to remember that you did that because then that defeats the purpose, right? So you make yourself.
Right.
You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, if you're gonna play the
Yeah, no,
game, you
that's a
can't
good
know all
one.
the answers to the game. Yeah, if you just turn God mode on a video game and just fly to the last level and just invisible cloak through the final boss, then you're not really playing the game. Yeah, you have to make the game, forget how you made it, and then play it with a unit of consciousness that doesn't know the game to make the game real.
How do you throw yourself your own surprise party?
Exactly. Both of you got it. Exactly.
Dude, that was such a good way to say it, dude. Because see, I think we're all going to go back to the source of what we are eventually. Like we're all going to. So yeah, that would be like the idea of separateness, or that we separated ourselves, is basically all building towards that surprise party at the end. Like, surprise, you are everything. If that's why it's doing it, to get to the end and be like, oh yeah, to remember. And that may be why it does it, is that there's some fascination of kind of forgetting and remembering, and then remembering. Because I mean, even though there's certain,
It's the only game in town. It's the only game in town when you're God.
So you guys are okay with being next to Jeffrey Dahmer too, then I guess.
Yeah, no, it's a tough pill to swallow, but sometimes the truth hurts.
well, I think we all are Jeffrey Dahmer ultimately on that higher level. So you are him. You are the murderers.
But
You are the everything on a different state of consciousness. Like not because otherwise you'd have to say there's two gods, or two or five gods, or 1,000 gods. Because if there's one God, then that's it. Everything that is God, including you and Jeffrey Dahmer and the murderers and all the horrible stuff. It doesn't mean that you are in your life going to be doing those things. I mean, I would pray that you have learned not to kill people. So I mean, I'm not saying it's right to do, but I think that's one of the deepest things, is to kind of understand, like, we all are these different aspects, even the darkest. Because the tendency is to just like want to push that away, just be like, well, that guy's psycho, send him off to hell, or just do something. But it's kind of a deeper thing to consider, like, who he actually is and how that's connected to you. Like, are you really separate from it? Like, are you ultimately eternally separate from Jeffrey Dahmer?
there's a lot of moral virtues that come along with that mindset when you view, even though these appendages of mine, every other person, if you want to call it appendage, your nervous system doesn't extend to them, right? Any egotistical person, or I mean, I don't mean egotistical in that way, but with the ego and the nervous system, all of your other appendages, meaning the rest of reality, you're basically numb to, and it's this delusion that that you're going to attack this thing, kill it, wound it, stab it, right? And just because you don't feel it, you think that it isn't to you. And that's the same idea as like you sit on your hand too long and it goes numb and you stab it and you're like, well, I'm not hurting myself because I can't feel it. You know what I mean? No, just because you can't feel it doesn't mean it isn't a part of yourself in an ultimate sense.
Yeah. Gio, do you see any downsides to everyone just going back to the source without any sort of, because maybe that's what people are doing right now. They're like saying, I'm going to have the most epic time in this world by lying and stealing, and I don't have to worry because I'm just going to go back to the source and he'll forgive me no matter what.
No, because to get back to the source, you have to not do those things. That's how you get back. You don't get back to being a psychopath. Gotcha. Yeah, if you're a psychopath, you'll never get there. That's the whole purpose.
Hurting
That's
others
like
is hurting yourself.
You get into like enlightenment, these kinds of ideas. But yeah, I would say get back, you have to be like, see, what I ultimately think is happening is that the source created this entire thing, like, if you want to say the rules, as it were, the guidelines of how to what's right and wrong and all of that. And then it separated itself into, like we were saying before, these kind of self-created amnesia states, basically. So it's kind of a negative way to call a soul that. Like, oh yeah, soul is just an amnesia state. No, but like it creates, like let's just say the word soul. So out of that like source of it, it creates what we would call a soul. That soul has, let's just say, no knowledge, nothing. It's just a blank slate. Like, it's absolutely just new. And it doesn't know anything of who it is, where it is, what creation is, any of that. And then it begins the journey of, I don't think Earth is the only realm to incarnate in, and I do think reincarnation exists as well. So it's like you can reincarnate here thousands of lifetimes, but there's infinite other realms to go to as well, that you can go through those as well. is my viewpoint. But nonetheless, like as you refine yourself and become a better person, a better soul, as it were, or evolve your soul in that sense, like how to treat people, how to deal with all these different things. And I think like the Earth realm was only one that has its things, but I think there's many others that have their components to them as well. But
I
and then
disagree.
getting to the source, getting back to the source would be going through all of those karmic processes and all of that, the right and wrong, in order to actually get back to the source is that process, like like an evolution of the soul to the point to where you've like, you know, a kind of enlightenment or elevated nature to where you've become so in line with those rules or with those kind of guidelines that were set out that you've become so in line with them that you've learned them all, you know, through blunders, through making mistakes and so on. But then you've you know figured it out, and then you graduate in that sense.
Let me ask you a question, Gio. Do you believe that there is an eternal spiritual war going on? Or do you think that the eternal spiritual war of good versus evil actually does conclude at some point? Because I think it's an eternal battle of opposing essences, eternal absolute essences. I don't think good ever actually defeats evil and gets rid of it, and then it results in only good. Oh, there's only good. Evil has just simply like been vanquished completely. I think both good and evil eternally are in an eternal war, and that consciousness is what decides how the scales of battle are tipped. And the most you can aim towards as a conscious agent of reality is maintaining the highest percentage level of good manifest as possible, being 99.99 point repeating, right? But always understanding there's always going to be a seed of evil that can't be completely. Do you really think that evil can be completely disappeared, or do you think it's an eternal battle? Sorry, I ranted.
Well, I don't know if I would phrase it in the sense of like that it's a war. That's a pretty deep question. You mean
You,
like
you can call it a dance. You can call it a dance. It doesn't have to be a war. It could be a dance or a battle or
Well,
whatever you want to call it. You know,
if we wanted evil to not exist, we could just do that instantly. So I mean, that wouldn't be hard. You know, from the
I don't.
source's perspective, it's creating it because it wants to. It's like if you're watching a movie and then you're literally in the middle of the movie theater and you're like, wait a minute, I don't want to be here. I'm out of here. You can just leave. You know. So in the same way, the creator could just stop the evil instantly if it wanted to.
I don't
So
so
in
you're
that
saying.
sense, it
So you're
could.
saying.
So, but it's creating it on purpose. So it does seem to be like it's part of eternity. Yeah, in that way.
Hmm.
But I don't think it's the ultimate. See, when I say the creator, like the source is good and evil, it is because it's creating both of those. But I actually do think like ultimately that it actually ultimately is good, like on the good side. Like it's ultimately good, but creates a lot of evil for the whether it's interesting or for the adventure, for the journeys, for all the tension. You know, like it thickens the plot, I suppose you could say, when there's all this stuff going on. Even when there's liars, it thickens the plot. Now you have to figure out what the truth is. You know, things like that. So I mean, from that perspective, it's creating it. But ultimately, I do think the source, like who we are, as it were, is love, infinite love, infinite bliss, infinite light, sound, vibration on an infinite and eternal level. And in that sense, it is infinite love. Because I even think like darkness is actually love, but it's twisted love. So it's actually love. It's just a contorted version of it that gets kind of turned back on itself, and then it ends up being hurtful. But it's actually an impulse of love between it. Because I think everything is actually made of love and light. So yeah, ultimately, it is all good in the end of it. But it creates a heck of a lot of darkness to experience, it seems.
Well, I think I agree with you, but one of the implications of that, just saying, I agree with you in the sense that if it is its will to only be good and for there to be no evil, if that was its choice, I would say that would basically be a pause button on reality. Because if there's no spectrum, then there can be no movement or change. Something that's perfectly good, like I was saying, is just frozen in a still state. So if you want anything to happen at all, there has to be room to move within. So if it chose to say get rid of all evil, it would just it'd just be frozen with nothing to do. Because as
Well,
soon
no,
as
you could create. I mean, dude, I think there's other realms that don't have any evil in them at all. Like, I think there's other realms that are absolutely utopian, beautiful, incredible, where there's not lions murdering each other and ripping legs off of other animals. There's not suffering and abuse and all that stuff. Like, so I think the
well,
creators
there's not things.
creators doing that thoroughly and to completion. Like, it has blissful, awesome realms with no evil. And I think there's realms that are much worse than this one. Like, actually, 1984 times 1,000.
All of that still implies a spectrum because as soon as I ask you to describe, if you even, if anyone, but yourself, because you're who I'm talking to, if someone were to describe a better place, you're gonna have to involve aspects of it, such as this person is this and this person is that, and then that means that this person is higher, above, to the left or right, which is going to include inequalities and asymmetry, meaning there's a better and a worse scenario going on, and there's really no other option for existence other to be exactly the way we have it right now. There's no such thing as like a good place and a bad place. The only place with things actually happening have to be a combination of good and bad. Not that there can't be a place with the scales tipped, like there's less war, there's less poverty, there's less hunger. That type of place could exist. But there's no such thing as a place where things are happening where there isn't a spectrum and like an asymmetry going on, which gives like the ability to describe things to a certain degree, or else it would have no qualities basically.
Maybe there's
What if
three
Fundy
places. Go for it, Essie.
I was just gonna say a funny thought came to my mind. What if, and Fundy should like this because he's all about fundamental. What if the exchange mechanism of this realm is like how is negative and positive, like good and evil, like there has to be, like one needs the other.
I think it's the quantum. Think of it like this: we have binary, right, good and bad, and we also have the superposition. So maybe there's Earth with the superposition, and then you have the hell, and then you have heaven.
I don't think that made any sort of sense.
Well, it's like the yin yang symbol that are kind of intertwined in that way, the dark and the light.
Right.
Yeah.
But the yin yang both have a piece of each other inside of themselves, which is the idea that, this reality and your, participation in it, no matter what you do, it's going to have intended consequences and unintended consequences. Go ahead and make any decision, behave any sort of way thoughtfully, and tell me everything that happens was all intended. No, every decision you ever make is going to have unintended consequences, and it's going to have intended consequences. You can't escape from the yin yang. They both have those little dots in them for a reason. It's not a black side and a white side. Reality isn't dualistic. It's consubstantial. It's a mixture. It's a tango. It's an interaction. There are no black and whites. There are no good and bad actions. There's only good to some degree, bad to some degree actions, positive to some degree, negative to some degree things.
So do you think there's good things in the worst place? Let's put ourselves in the position of the worst place, like hell or 1984 on steroids. Is there any good in there?
The good is the source of creation is enjoying creating it. Otherwise, it wouldn't create it. Like but not what we would categorize as good as a human, though. Yeah, I mean, if it's 1984 times 1,000, yeah. Or you said on steroids, yeah.
Yeah.
It's really simple. Is reality heaven? Is reality hell? No and no. Is reality a fluctuating, dynamic mixture of the two? Yeah, obviously.
That's why I think we live in the quantum, right? If let's say quantum computing exists, we're the good and the bad at the same time. But there's also a truly positive and a truly negative. That's just my thought.
Those things exist, but honestly, exist isn't the right word. Those things are concepts that maybe like exist on a higher level, because in order to exist, you need to have an example of yourself. And there is no example of zero in reality, because it defeats the definition itself, right? Zero, it means there isn't an example, right? It's not there. An example means you have something to provide, right? An example. So there's no example of zero. There's also no example of infinity. And what we have here is just examples of things in certain finite amounts that exist between zero and infinity. Just like there's nothing that doesn't reflect light, and there's nothing that absorbs all light. Even though we can approach that to an infinite degree, fraction by fraction, absolutes don't exist. We live in a world between two absolutes maybe on just some sort of transcendental level, but we live in a mixture realm, a consubstantial realm, not a dualistic realm, because there's no example of black and white. Those things are transcendental,
bro.
I mean, right here. And I got a question I wanted to ask Eden.
All right, just do take 5. Do take 2. Do something, please. You're monologuing. Please don't.
I hear you, Gio. I'll take that advice. Just don't be so upset. I can take advice.
Well, I would like to ask you, which way would you like, if you're drinking and monologuing, which way would you like me to remind you, on VC or DMs? You let me know.
You can just say out loud, "Hey, man, you're going on a bit too long. Dial it back." And be, you're right. Okay.
I think it's pretty cool to be with you all, though, pushing the boundaries of what the creator is. And I appreciate everyone's time and feedback. I think it kind of helps us. Maybe maybe it does or maybe it doesn't. I think it kind of does. Helps us sharpen our position and see other people's positions.
Gee, man, you know you can go on too long too. How would you want someone to tell you, hey, you're getting passionate, which is what I was doing. I care about this subject, and I had a lot to express. I think what you just said was a little underhanded, so a little offense taken. Be better, please. But yeah, just tell me like a normal person would. Hey, you're getting passionate and you're talking too long about this. Open it up to the rest of the room and dial it back a little bit, Fundy. You know, but don't be weird about it like you just did.